Boxing is one of the most famous contact sports in the world. In the middle of the last century, with the beginning of the era of television, boxing acquired the status of the most popular martial art in the world. In today's video, we are going to take a look at the history of boxing from the perspective of the best boxing fights, which had a huge, epic-making significance in the history of boxing. These are legendary fights that filled huge stadiums, grabbed the attention of hundreds of millions of spectators, and forever changed the history of boxing itself. If you enjoyed watching this episode on our channel, please click the thumbs up and subscribe to the world of boxing. Here, we grab a sense of nostalgia and recall the best fights in the ring, which go down in the annals of boxing history. February 11th, 1990, Tokyo, Japan. 23-year-old Mike Tyson in his 7th defense for the title of world champion in super heavyweight. His rival was 29-year-old James "Buster" Douglas. At the time, the #1 contender in all rankings was Evander Holyfield, but Tyson had not entered the ring since July of 1989, and Holyfield had fought recently. Because of this, an intermediate option was chosen to lead into the greatly anticipated Tyson versus Holyfield match. In 1987, Douglas had lost to Tony Tucker early in the fight for the vacant IBF title, but after that he won several victories, including defeats over Trevor Berbick and Oliver McCall. But against such a destructive machine as Mike Tyson, Douglas was ranked with a ratio of 42-1. Also, 23 days before the fight, he endured the loss of his mother. He didn't refuse to fight, moreover, according to him, as this sad event gave him decisiveness. As for Tyson, there was chaos in his life before the fight. His divorce from Robin Givens and an internal conflict within his boxing team between Don King and Tyson's manager. What's more, part of Tyson's preparation for the Douglas fight didn't take place in the training room, but instead took place in bars and clubs. Despite the negativity, Tyson's aura overshadowed his personal troubles, and predictions about the fight still centered around when Tyson would knock out Douglas.
Shake hands and good luck, both. Everybody out.
Buster Douglas is a conventional fighter who likes to work behind a stiff left jab.
From the first round, it was apparent that this was not a typical Tyson fight, taking into consideration his other fights of that time period. Iron Mike did not act as dynamically as before. However, Douglas was clearly feeling confident in the ring. Many of Tyson's past rivals lost to him even before the fight began, but there was no hint of anything like that in Douglas's behavior. Douglas moved easily, trying to keep Tyson at a distance using his jab. And if Mike moved in to close the distance, James threw punches in response. Tyson's usual style was one of swinging his torso from side to side, but now acted quite uniformly, approaching his opponent in a straight line, thereby running into the direct hits from Douglas. Whenever Tyson got close, Douglas was waiting with uppercuts and hooks. Tyson was his own worst enemy.
Absorb that kind of a foot.
By punch stat computations, in the first 2 rounds.
In round 3, Tyson seemed to gain some momentum, and it appeared he was going to turn the fight around.
Another good right, because that jeopardizes you, puts you in a lot of trouble.
Douglas accurate with the jab.
Let's back up. What's Douglas doing? He's not allowing Mike again. The yell from Tyson's corner.
Good solid left jab by Douglas. Tyson grazed him with the right.
Round 4 started uneventfully, but the pace picked up as Douglas presented his best.
Too much change.
As you did.
Yes. Good enough hook by
Douglas
Douglas.
again with a left and a right, and now Tyson lands a right hand and backs Buster up, but here he comes.
Mike goes, the Mike goes twice. Mike is dropping his hands.
Probably the most intense viewer of this fight was Evander Holyfield, who was guaranteed $12 million for a fight with Tyson after 4 months, but on the condition that Mike won against Douglas. However, Holyfield's hope of a fight with Tyson was becoming smashed. In round 5, Douglas beat Tyson heartily, and as a result, Tyson suffered a cut above his left eye. Tyson's coaches, Aaron Snowell and Jay Bright, used ice to control the swelling.
It's the best opponents. This is even better news than that from his point of view. And he is swelled up.
If anything, his dominance is increasing.
Again, the leadoff rights. I'm very surprised they're landing like they are. As long as Douglas stay there, he's going to play right into Mike Tyson's hands. But the thing about it is, Jim and Ray,
Douglas felt at ease against Tyson's actions, since Tyson acted with single blows and not with 2 or 3 shot combinations that were followed by a clinch. Tyson's action defied logical explanation, possibly blamed on poor physical preparation.
Eerily silent. Douglas with another right hand. Douglas partially connected. Left jab, right on Tyson's face.
this is the first
speech at a time when Liston was regarded as invincible. You have to go back that far to find something this shocking in a heavyweight title fight.
No comments about Mike Tyson.
In round 8, Tyson did not pick up much activity or speed, but carried out some good explosive attacks. There was hope that Mike might be able to save his titles by using these explosive attacks.
Well, he's asking some questions of Tyson that Tyson hasn't been asked before. In the second half of the fight,
Hitting on the break, Miran didn't say a word to him about it. Well, there's just no question which is the more confident fighter now. You see how easily Douglas is dominating the action inside.
and Tyson is holding on.
Then, when Douglas gets too close, Tyson inflicts a right uppercut on the attack, knocking Douglas down.
Against the rope, I've never seen.
And there's a right hand uppercut, and down goes Douglas. And suddenly is that.
The referee controversially counts very slowly, and by all accounts, it took 13 seconds between the moment when Douglas fell to the floor and the moment he got up. Some believe that Douglas was using the maximum amount of time he could to wait out the end of the round before rising. Judging by his first movements, he could have risen earlier. This all happened in the last seconds of the round, and Tyson simply did not have enough time to do something. But still, the referee's slow countdown made this episode one of the most famous of all the controversial episodes in boxing history.
Trying to bait him to come in and to relax, because that was the effect of it. Came off the ropes with that terrific right uppercut.
Energized after the break, Tyson seems to set his mind on success, but Douglas goes on the counterattack and shocks Tyson. Buster Douglas was probably no less tired than Tyson. Nevertheless, he absolutely did not want to give up. Although, of course, Tyson in this fight was not the same Tyson who mercilessly beat opponents and seemed invulnerable. At that moment, Iron Mike Tyson, in front of the eyes of astonished spectators around the world, was no longer the animal from before. Instead, he became ordinary, and Douglas ruthlessly beat him. Tyson begins the 10th round with a powerful right cross, but this is the last successful attack from the absolute world champion, who is now exhausted both from damage and from missed blows. A right uppercut, now performed by Douglas, shocks Tyson, and Douglas begins a combination that puts an end to one of the brightest careers in the history of not only super heavyweight boxing, but boxing in general. Few people pay attention to this, but the referee does a slow countdown of Tyson's knockdown, just as he had done for Douglas, and it lasts the same 13 seconds. But this extra time doesn't help Tyson, who is trying his best but is not able to continue. Larry Merchant, in a live television broadcast, called the result of this fight the greatest upset in boxing history.
Well, what surprised you from the get-go? What were you going to try to do from the get-go?
That's what I did, whip his ass. You know, I mean, you come to fight, I come to fight. I told you in the room, I said, that it was time for James Douglas to come out of the closet.
But it seems you had
You know, I told you that I also had times where I had great fights that would come back with 2 or 3 different fights that was mediocre, you know, and that would leave a lot of doubt. I don't blame you guys. You guys go on what you see, you understand? But I know, and my people know, that's what the real James Douglas is all about.
Every challenger for Mike Tyson says the same thing, but you did something in there
I told you
to neutralize him.
Why my nose? Thank you, Jesus.
Evander, your reaction to what you just saw?
Well, it was a great fight on Douglas' part. He went out and fought his fight and fought a very smart fight, and he proved that he wanted to be the champion.
And badly cut under the left eye. Low blow by Gotti. Esteves says keep him up. Right hand lands over the top.
I don't think he'll make it back.
Two great hand shots by Gotti. Monster shots. And a swollen Gabriel Ruelas.
After the fight with Gabriel Ruelas, which was recognized as the Fight of the Year in 1997, Arturo Gatti decided to leave the semi-lightweight and made the decision to go into the lightweight division. 3 months after the hard fight with Ruelas, he fought Angel Manfredi, who was considered in the top 10 lightweights. Arturo did not have time to fully recover, which was to his detriment. In the 3rd round, Gatti was knocked down. During the fight, he missed too many blows and ended up being defeated early, when in the 8th round, a doctor stopped the fight because of damage to his left eye. In general, the fighters were equally matched. Therefore, given all circumstances, it was expected that Gatti would certainly prove himself in this new weight. Moreover, he was a favorite of the public. After the Angel Manfredi fight, Gatti decided to rest and prepare for his next fight 7 months later. August 22, 1998. The rival was Ivan Robinson, who 2 years earlier fought for the championship title with Philip Holliday and lost by a unanimous decision. And then lost again by knockout to the strong fighter Israel Cordon. Taking all this into account, Gatti went into the fight as the clear favorite. Arturo Gatti at the time was far from being the best fighter, but still a boxing star in his own right, and this became a huge motivation for Robinson. As Robinson recalled many years later, he entered this fight with a great desire to win and was in the best physical shape of his career.
And if he gets caught that big punch from Gotti, it's going to be dangerous.
Well, the right hand
Entering, scoring points, trying to begin and finish the exchanges and then get back out. He wants to go in and move away.
There's a big punch that Arturo Gatti early too.
Ivan Robinson with but another storm in return from Robinson. Landed a right hand across the top. Oh, hard left hook by Gotti.
Robinson's technique punching pretty good right now.
This round reminds me a little bit of the 10th round of Bo Holyfield.
The first round was under control of Robinson. Gatti pressed ahead, but could not find a weakness. Robinson used his maneuverability and excellent jab to defend against Arturo's attacks, and quickly moved out of the danger zone.
Right now. You got to wear him down a little more before you can knock him out.
Terrific right cross by Gotti.
In the second round, Robinson began to act bolder. He began to stand directly in front of Gatti and tried to suppress him by throwing a large number of blows with a high amount of accuracy. Although not surprising, as Arturo Gatti had always been a little weak in his defense.
Robinson giving as good as he's getting, and sometimes better.
This requires no commentary. If you've ever seen boxing before,
And now you're going to see Robinson answering later in the round. That big right uppercut looked about the hardest punch in the fight. So
In the third round, the fight became noticeably tougher, but in general, the picture didn't change much. Gotti was eager to land decisive blows, but this only led into desperate mistakes that Robinson took advantage of. As a result, Ivan Robinson, who was considered an obvious outsider before the fight, quite confidently won the first 3 rounds, while Gotti displayed some of the worst boxing of his career. Gotti had one serious flaw, which manifested itself in this fight. After his unsuccessful attempts to attack Robinson, Gotti sometimes seemed to freeze and did not know what to do next, while enduring a hail of oncoming punches.
Robinson just targeting Gotti.
But sometimes boxing favors luck. In round 4, when the situation became critical, Gotti struck Robinson in the back of the head and knocked him down. The blow was not hard, but it was enough for Ivan so that he lost his balance. Gotti tried to build on this success, but his excessive desire probably led to further mistakes. Nonetheless, it seemed that Arturo had returned to the game. This knockdown frustrated the whole work that Robinson did and cost him as much as 3 points, since he would have won the 4th round if it weren't for the knockdown, and would have put him in the lead with the advantage of 4 points. Now, the difference was only 1 point, but Robinson had no time to pause as he repeated his successful strategy from earlier, which was to force his opponent to miss and punish him for those misses. The American won the next round, and he also opened a cut under Gotti's eye and caused swelling above it.
This is a 10 at stake. So as we reach the end of round 5, we are coming to the halfway point in the bout. And that makes the knockdown for Gotti in the last round. Oh, good right hand by Gotti, good left hand by Robinson. Both men still landing with great frequency.
Oh, good right hand by Robinson. Land a big shot on him. That's what he needs to do, move his head.
In the first 2 minutes of the 6th round, Gotti literally chased his opponent around the ring. However, when Arturo overtook him, he would run into a series of tough attacks. Still, these difficult efforts from Gotti seemed to bear fruit. His straightforward attacks eventually shocked Robinson, who fortunately had only 25 seconds left in the round. He held out, but because of Arturo's attacks, he lost the 6th round in points. However, Arturo failed to build further success, and in the 7th round he pressed again, but not as actively as before. Because of this, Robinson managed to keep his opponent out of his way.
They're throwing some big punches at one another now, Jim. They're throwing some big punches at one another now, Jim. Both guys looking for a knockdown.
In round 8, Robinson may have decided to take a break, and Gotti took advantage of this by winning the round.
Well, you don't want to get ahead of yourself, but if you're Ivan Robinson, in the back of your mind, you got to be thinking 7 more minutes and I've won this fight.
Gotti liked that round. Every time he's landed some good punches.
The last couple of rounds, but it's late in a fight in which he is likely trailing on the score.
Gotti started the next round well, but then missed an incoming blow that definitely shocked him. Arturo recovered and even went on the counterattack, but in the end he lost this very important round.
Huge ninth round for Ivan Robinson, trying to finish Arturo Gotti off. Gotti wobbling, seemingly almost out on his feet. Watch him erupt with a big left hook here any minute. Command now as we come down the stretch of the night.
Early in the round, Gotti getting wobbled by some of Robinson's stiff, straight punches. Right there.
Against good friend Ivan Robinson.
At the time of the final round, Gotti was down in points. So much so that he could only win the fight by knockout or by a series of knockdowns. But boxers do not know the score during the fight, and so both of them wanted to pick up the win for this final round. At first, Robinson looked a little better, but during one of his attacks he got a little carried away, and Gotti caught him with a precise blow.
Gotti again. 44 seconds to go. This would be the miracle of all miracles if he's able to pull it off. Robinson trying to hold. Gotti looking for one big.
However, the problem was that Gotti had almost no strength left, and he had failed to finish Robinson off. Ivan came to his senses. Just a few seconds before the end of the fight, Robinson stumbled, which provoked another attack from Gotti, but still this was not enough. As a result, Arturo Gotti lost in a fight in which he was predicted to win, and Ivan Robinson, in turn, invested all his moral and physical strength to his success, winning the hardest fight of his career. But the adventures of Robinson in 1998 did not end there. Less than 4 months later, a rematch was waiting for him.
Winner by split decision, mighty Ivan Robinson.
Ivan, the first thing you said to Gotti after the fight was
no rematch.
No rematch.
No rematch.
Why is that?
No. We just kidding. We'll do it again with Gotti if he want to do it again. He's a true champion. I want to thank Main Event. I want to thank Team Robinson for putting up with me for 8 weeks. And Gotti, you're a hell of a champion, baby.
Hey, do you want a rematch?
Of course, whoever I fight, I want a rematch. It was a tough fight, and Ivan Robinson showed a lot, about good boxing skill. And yeah, definitely a rematch. Why not?
This is the world of boxing. Thank you for watching. Please press the like button and comment below, as well as subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any new episodes about legends of the past.